Welcome to Belief Busters Podcast, where we change the world one belief at a time. I'm your host, Reverend Cherie Taylor Jones, and I'm really glad that you could join us on the journey. Well, today on Belief Busters, we have Ali Fitzpatrick. She is an international spiritual and soul alchemy coach. She teaches Kundalini yoga, meditation, and breath work. Ali is a Reiki Level 2 practitioner, sound healer, and speaker, bringing light, love, humor, and a big old dose of authenticity to all of the mediums she works in. Ali, so excited to have you here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. This is such an honor to get to speak with you.
Let's start with, what were some of your indoctrinated beliefs about, like, taking up space and worth in the world?
Oh my gosh, what weren't they growing up? What weren't they even as an adult being
Right
with you? So I grew up in a really tiny town, about 500 people. Wow. Just outside of Minneapolis, and I think we're related to most of them. So it was nice and safe, but it was also, I was a very conservative town that I grew up in, and it was small. And I went to a very, very strict Lutheran school, like the most strict. I think it's Missouri Synod in that school from kindergarten through 8th grade, and it was very oppressive because anytime I'm an outspoken person, and when I know that something doesn't feel right within me, I will say something. And I did that as a child. But the problem was, when you are a child, you are so influenced, and you let the outside words and you let that energy in, and then you make it mean something about you. And I got that from the age of, kindergarten. So when you're 6, I started receiving that when I was 6 years old. And one of the main things that did not sit with me was the fact they wouldn't let us question, and they wouldn't let us be curious, and they wouldn't let us use our voice and see what actually aligns with us, what versus it doesn't align, if that makes sense.
It does.
And then the other main thing that I basically stopped believing in church and in a religion when I was about probably 10 or 11, because my uncle was gay and he died of AIDS when I was 2. And I questioned one of the ministers about that, and it was completely shut down. He was absolutely in hell. I'm like, I don't believe that. Wow. And also, you're telling this to a 10-year-old child. What is wrong with you? From a very young age, I was told to not have a voice, basically, and to try and fit in to whatever mold was around me. And I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in at all. I felt like a black sheep for most of my life. Within the last few years, once I've started tapping into my soul and what my soul actually is, and what it wants, and where it wants to go, and who it wants to be in contact with, and what I want to be doing, that's when I feel like I finally found my authentic nature and my worthiness. But it has been about 30 years of trying to dismantle all of those things from childhood.
The messages that you got as a child, what were they basically?
They were basically, you're too loud. I would sing too loud. I would speak too loud. My presence, I was too big. Even though I was a petite person, my presence was too big. I was too smart, too intelligent, which then made me question literally my intelligence. I have been working through limiting beliefs since I was a child about how smart I am. You're not enough. you're not pretty enough. You're not.
Mhm.
You're too small. You're too big.
From working with the Senate that women are really second-class citizens. I mean, it's like the males are elevated, the females are diminished and suppressed. So keeping that in mind, it has to have been such a struggle to really find your place and find your voice and know your worth. So what was the process for you to like really assess and then release those beliefs that don't serve you and then create new ones?
Yeah. Well, so something that I find interesting, I have been, so in my past life, my former life, I'm a classically trained professional actor and a concert pianist. And so for my entire life until about 4 years ago, like that is what I was doing. And so the irony of that is you don't find who you truly are. Like, yes, you use it and you use your experiences, but you're still playing someone else. You're still like putting on this mask. And so a lot of the work I have been doing has been taking off the mask and just letting myself be vulnerable and raw and seen, which is so uncomfortable. It's just like any muscle that we have to develop, right?
Yes.
And I was not comfortable. I'm still at times uncomfortable with being fully seen. But the interesting thing is, once I gave up acting, I didn't give it up, but once I'm like, I want to explore other things on top of this, that's when I started doing that deeper work. I worked with my own health and life and soul coach out in New York City. She's amazing, Beth Whitting Clayton. But she, through her programs, even in the health coaching, we started doing those dismantling of limiting beliefs, especially I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough.
Right.
I don't approve of myself. Like, those are the main ones that we all are working through.
Yep.
So that, about 5.5 years ago was when I gave up acting a little bit. And then I started down this discovering path of really, truly discovering who I am without all of the shoulds and without all of, oh man, I could be doing this, or I should be, or wow, my parents are going to disapprove, or what are people going to think because I moved out to New York City and now I'm giving this up. But our lives will look completely different, every single one of us, and it's whatever makes you truly fulfilled and happy. But it also starts with asking yourself those questions and not asking and not digging in a way that's making you wrong or making you bad, but really just looking and getting curious and treating yourself like you would treat a child. Because that's what we are. Like, it's our inner children on the inside. And so I just started having those conversations and then dismantling the thoughts and then envisioning from past experiences that have been traumatizing. And it's like through work of Byron Katie and Danielle Laporte, and the one that I'm thinking of right now, it's The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. And she has this beautiful exercise where you will take your experience and then how you remember it, but then you come up with 3 alternate endings, alternate beliefs, and then you choose which is the best for you, what feels the best, and then you start to envelop that feeling and embody it. And it changes. Like, you are able to change your past beliefs through that little bit of love, compassion, but it's intention. Really, really being intentional about that.
Yeah, I love that because when I first found out about that, I thought, yeah, but isn't that creating more like lies to yourself? And it's just really amazing how our brains, I mean, when we're young, we go through programming. We don't call it that, but we're little sponges and we absorb all of these external, as you mentioned, thoughts and beliefs from others, right? And then we program ourselves with those thoughts and beliefs. And what you're talking about is really now, how do we reprogram our brains, our thoughts to be in alignment with who and what we really are at a soul and cellular level? And that's really powerful work. And it's, I really had to look at the reframing of that from, am I telling myself a lie, to what if my perspective of this event, this situation, is distorted? And how can I then look at it through another lens? And if I'm able to look at it through another lens, then I'm able to create new beliefs around that. And in that, there's this releasing of the old tape, the old programming, and then the embodiment of a thriving new set of beliefs and thoughts and perspectives. It's truly life-changing.
It is. It is. Oh my gosh, it is. It is, it is, but you won't know it until you start to do the work of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where the power is. So yeah, we can talk about it. And in the talking, there is power in the talking about it, because you don't know what you don't know, right? Until
No.
you hear it for the first time and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Oh, what if I tried that? So I invite the listeners on like one situation, like Ali just mentioned, take one situation and look at the possibility of reframing that. And what does that create inside your body? What is that feeling that you feel from the angst or the not self-acceptance that you may feel about that situation? And if you take it and reframe it, what are the feelings that that's going to shift in you? And it's profound, my friend. So if you're willing to give that a try, please, please give it a try. It's like one of the beginning steps of this transformation work. Thank you, Ali, for bringing that up. It's really appreciated.
Well, the other thing I thought of as you were talking about this programming while we're children, most of these feelings that we hold, like, we don't walk around consciously saying, man, I am so unworthy. Man, I'm not enough. I'm not smart. No, these are things that like our 5-year-old self told ourselves. So all of these experiences you were talking about, and for all the listeners, they're not happening right now. They've already happened, and it's our attachment and us making us mean something. We carry it with us. So then those moments that we stop, we take that intentional pause, do the little exercise or whatever exercise you might find that jives with you. And then in those moments, we're able to gracefully cut the ties from that energy, from that thought, from that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Powerful work. Thank you. So what do you believe today about your worthiness, and how do you express your authentic voice?
It actually felt like the first time I found my authentic voice was it was almost 2 years ago in India when I went for my first training. And I had never taken a Kundalini class before. There was something about it that drew me to it, and I have no idea why. Again, those soul nudges, your intuition. Mm-hmm. And I went and I learned that so much of Kundalini is chanting. And I'm a musical theater performer. I love singing, and I have felt my entire life, I've never been the greatest singer. I know I'm fine. Yeah, like I do well singing, but my voice has never been one to like wow people. And that's like a sore spot of mine, or not a sore spot, but that's something that makes me feel really vulnerable. And so I've always been self-conscious with my voice, mostly my singing voice. But then when it didn't matter, and I was in a room of 11 other people, and my Indian men teachers who didn't care what their voice sounded like, it was so beautiful. And for the first time, because we would be there, one of our meditations was 62 minutes, and we had 7 different mantras we went through. And I love harmonizing, and I love singing so much. And it felt like for the first time I was just expressing myself just as me through this outlet. And that was profound. Like, those moments were so profound for me. And I think that's why I resonate. One of the reasons with this technology, with this form of yoga so much. I think I'm ready now. I think I'm ready to fully be seen. And I want to, because I want to make those connections with people through who I actually am. Even in my teacher training, we had feedback and they were like, you're a teacher, like you need to teach this type of yoga. And I just started sobbing. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like I want to. It feels completely natural. Like, I know I'm this mothering, caring, nurturing soul, but I've never found the appropriate outlet. But I think I have now. And so that instilled me with confidence that I had never had before. And once you start to spark that flame, that instills your worthiness as well. Being like, yes, I am worthy to be up here presenting about this, because I know what I'm talking about. Speaking to people about all of these different topics and developing that worthiness, and not this external validation worthiness, but really, really digging into that internal, because my whole life it's been external and I've loved that, but I've realized that's not how you fill yourself up, because it's momentary as opposed to internal is that fuel that continues to fill you.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. So do you have any suggestions to allow people to give themselves permission? Well, first to take up space in the world, and how to be worthy, and then, maybe find their authentic voice through that work.
I didn't make this up. It's from Brené Brown, but she would write herself permission slips. And that's what I would do. And I don't know what you need permission for, but honestly, the act of you writing it down on paper and acknowledging it and then putting it to the side and being like, no, I'm going to honor it and I'm going to respect this, that helps to build that internal relationship that you have with yourself. And then when you said taking up space, again, the first thing that came to my mind, and we used to do this at the beginning of, I went to a musical theater gym in New York City called Mark Fisher Fitness, and we used to stand giving yourself that permission to physically be larger than you are, because that is actually sending signals to your brain and helping to already retrain some of that programming that you might not have had. Because like, as women, I don't know about you, but I tend to hunch, I tend to shrink, but no, this is where we live from. This is where our heart space is. This is where our center is. And so it's really being able to open ourselves up and like listen to a couple minutes of your favorite song and like sink into this feeling, or do it for 30 seconds. It's just a really easy thing. And I'll do it before meetings. I'll do it before interviews. That really does. That's a beginning step of training yourself. If you only have 30 seconds.
I get it, because I'm 5'8". I've been this height since I was 12, and very developed. And so I walked around hunched for like majority of my life, and my training, my early programming is that women are small and they're petite and, they're delicate. Well, 5'8", full figured, there's no delicate here, right? And it was really a profound lesson for me to discern that I'm worthy of taking up the space that I command. And I also think, as a powerful, soulful person, part of our programming as children is to be diminished and to be less than. There's some kind of trigger in our humanity of to stay safe, you have to be smaller. And I get that from our parents and our grandparents' programming. I understand that. And then, ours is to undo that, because they were trying to do what they felt was necessary to keep us safe. We bless them, we thank them, and we release that programming and then step into, oh my God, I am this huge, powerful presence. And that is my authenticity, right? And that is mine to do. And really owning that. That is really commanding that I'm entitled, I'm worthy to take up big breaths. I'm worthy to have enough space. I'm worthy to be seen. Oh my God, to be seen. I'm worthy to be seen. And just little things like that. And we don't realize how that drip, 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 through our youth and young adult life, how powerful that has become. And it's so important for us to undo that training and really soak into the power. And so, yeah, I love what you said about right in that heart chakra, that is so powerful for us. And if we're hunched over and trying to be small, what do? We smush that energy there, which is part of our being authentic in the world. So I love that.
Well, the other thing I thought of while you were talking as well is that it's not about using this penetrative force forward. Like, I am owning my worthiness in a masculine way. I am owning my enoughness. It's not about forcing forward. It's actually about relaxing back. And I just wanted to touch on that briefly, that masculine versus feminine energy. It's not we've been living in this masculine.
Oh, baby.
This Piscean age, and we've transitioned, or we're in the process to that Aquarian age, which is moving from that third chakra up to that heart chakra. But that means we cannot act in the same way that we did before. So all of the work I have done, it hasn't been pushing forward, it's been surrendering back into myself. And through that surrender, through that receptivity, you're able to open into and find that authentic place. But if we're pushing along, that often isn't. That's like prying and prodding at this beautiful, what are they called before flowers? Like a bud, and being like, can you please open? And it's like, no, I don't want to open, it's only ready. And then when it's ready, it opens. Just like when we're ready, we open to whatever.
Yes.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up really quickly is I completely forgot I have been working with a specific Kundalini mantra for the past 3 weeks. And it's all about cutting those ancestral ties, all of that karma, everything, because it's not just us this lifetime, and it's not just our parents and our grandparents. Our line goes back 7 generations behind us, and then 7 following us. And that's 15 lines. And we don't, does anyone want to have 15 lines of that programming within their system? And I feel like from some of the dreams I've been having with this and some waking moments, I think it's actually working, and it's doing that job to subconsciously, again, reprogram in a non-forcing way, but in a way that's subconsciously and unconsciously helping us.
Really powerful. Yeah. What I like about what you said is we are so conditioned for the masculine energy. We've been trained that to be successful, we need to embody the masculine energy, and the feminine divine energy has really been poo-pooed and pushed to the side and not of worth. And I think this part of our transformation to a new level of consciousness requires the embodiment of the feminine, of the divine, of the surrender as opposed to the force. I like that. To the consensus rather than the patriarchal, thou shalt do it this way, and this is the only and right way to do it. What this transformation is calling for is the acceptance that there are all ways, and that all paths are just as valuable and necessary. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm also hoping to inspire people to embrace the feminine, to embrace the divine, to embrace consensus, to embrace surrendering and allowing. When we're in that allowing and acceptance, that truly is where we feel our divinity, where we honor the truth of who and what we are. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So, what is it that you really do with clients, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with mostly women. I work with a lot of women, and a lot of them actually are emerging light workers on their journey as they reconnect or uncover their own unique soul essence and their purpose during this life. And we do this through spiritual tools, inner discovery, and soul alignment. And as you mentioned at the beginning, it's these programs. If I work with people in 4-week programs, in 12-week programs, and then one-off programs, and we'll always do an intake and the soul deep dive, and to see what their needs, to see what they're really looking for. And then through a culmination, we end up using a culmination of all of the spiritual tools that we mentioned up above. We'll use some Kundalini meditations because it's a technology that works with the energy within our body, and it helps to retrain a lot of the programming that we have. And so I love to bring that in. If a meditation, if affirmations, if breath work, if anything that might be blocking you, and to help you step into that soul purpose and really uncovering that soul essence. And if you want, you can get a hold of me at chasinglifewellness.com is my website. And then I have a free meditation that I wanted to gift you guys. It's just a really short, it's beautiful, and it actually has to do with worthiness, and it has to do with empowering ourselves. So it's perfect. And you just go to my website, there's a drop down for meditations, and then you type in belief, all one word, all capital, and then you'll be able to download the file. And then if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at the.wellness.wanderer, and the last E is a 3. And you can find me on Facebook, ali.j.fitzpatrick. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your listeners for giving me this opportunity, and that you are all worthy, and that you are all enough, and that you are beautiful and perfect exactly as you are. And that goes for every single one of us. And so remember that.
Thank you, Ali. And for our listeners, we really appreciate your support of the Belief Busters podcast. And I resonate with Ali when I say, yes, you're all worthy. See you next time. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of belief systems. I hope this gives you permission to change your beliefs and subsequently the world. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a review wherever you listen. You can reach me at info@preachitsister.com. I've also written a book, Turning Your Why into Why Not, that gives you practical resources and steps that you can take to continue on the journey of exploring what your belief systems are. I look forward to seeing you next time on Belief Busters podcast. See you on the flip side.